Welcome to the Pool Nation podcast, where it's all pool talk. And we ain't talking about netting and jetting or splashing and dashing. We're talking about becoming a nation of pool pros. We talk about the latest products, trends, and training in the pool industry. Now let's welcome your host, with over a decade of industry insider experience and still the reigning champion of Marco Polo, Edgar De Jesus, and his co-host, John J.J. Flawless, the fastest netter in the West, and Zac the Pool Boy Nicholas.
Welcome, everyone, to the Pool Nation Live podcast. I am your host, Edgar De Jesus, and yes, I am the reigning champion of Marco Polo, along with Mr. John J.J. Flawless, the fastest netter in the West, and the famous Zac, the Pool Boy Nicholas. Today, we're talking to Adam Beech, founder and CEO of PoolBrain, along with Kevin Embree, CRO of PoolBrain. Want to welcome everyone to our live podcast, a podcast where it's all pool talk, and we ain't talking about netting and jetting or splashing and dashing. We're talking about becoming a nation of pool pros. And yes, we will talk about the latest products, trends, and trading in the pool industry. But before we get started today, we want to thank our visionary partners for this podcast, the SPPA, Blu-ray XL, Aquastar Pool Products, Natural Chemistry, Raypack, Heritage Pool Supply, Hayward Pool Products, Poolside Tech, and our friends at PoolBrain. Want to welcome and thank them to the podcast. Mr. Zacharias, what's going on?
Not much. I'm feeling good today. I got to admit, on our drive down here, Adam's probably never going to want it. Next time he has an option, he's going to be like, hey, can I jump in the truck with you guys? Because I went down some of my rabbit holes. We talked about aliens, some conspiracies.
No, you did not do that.
But I loved every minute of it. But no, I'm doing good. It's been a fun 24 to 48 hours. Lots of good conversations, good food, hanging out.
Mr. Flawless, what's going on? You're kind of quiet. You're a little quiet today.
I'm a little quiet.
Why?
Today.
Why is that?
I'm mustering up all my energy for the podcast.
Is
I had
that
a rough
it?
night last night. No, look, I'm again story. I mean, week after week after week, it's just becoming more and more evident that I'm getting older and older, and life is not the same for me anymore. I don't know if it's like I'm going through a mini midlife crisis or something like that, but I'm just coming to realize that I am getting older. And, you know, you sent out that post, right, yesterday that we did talking about, you know, that Doc Holliday post or whatever, but it couldn't be more clear than day, right? That's how I feel. But it's been a rough week, or actually a rough month, or a rough year, or however you want to look at it. But I'm not sleeping too well. So last night I'm off a little bit, so I got about 3 hours worth of sleep, and that's about it. But
So you're telling me that you're going through a menopause is what you're going through? Is that what it is?
100%.
100%. Yeah, just like you got the sweats, you're not sleeping at night, you know, all that kind of stuff.
It's all bad.
It's all bad.
It's all bad.
Yeah,
But you know how it is. Once we get going and once we start talking, and I'm especially excited about today's podcast, and to listen to the story of kind of where everything started and how you guys got to this table today, right? I think all our listeners are going to truly love it because they're going to be able to relate to it. And you know how I am. Once I kind of get in my zone here, I start to wake up, and then halfway through the podcast, I won't be able to shut up.
Already Maria's going, welcome to reality, John. That's the way it is, baby. So big shout out to Maria.
I'm fighting it, Maria. I'm fighting it. I will not succumb to it. Right? No, but other than that, no, I'm doing well. I'm just tired, but that's it. I'm doing okay.
That's it. All right. Well, good to know. We were just kind of a little worried, you know.
Yeah.
You know, that menopause can really kind of take you down
the
a
more
rabbit.
you talk about it and you bring it up, the more I think about it, right?
It makes sense,
It's
right?
like a vicious cycle, right?
Just,
I'm a little weird like
yeah,
that, but other than that, no. I'm doing well.
Awesome. What's going on, Kevin?
It's going great.
How you doing? Welcome.
I'm happy to be here. I listen to the podcast every week. Usually call you to find out when it's starting.
Yes.
So
when we kind of don't go, I always get the text from him like, dude, where you at? What's going on? So
it's exciting to be here.
So does it feel weird now to be on this side right here?
It feels very weird.
Okay,
Yeah.
so here's what anybody that has Kevin's number, do me a favor and text him and find out where he's at right now, so that his phone can buzz over there. So,
Thank you.
yeah, Adam, welcome. How you doing?
Doing great, thank you. Like John, I too am unfortunately getting older, and I hate every second of that. But we're gonna deal with it. And if anyone was curious, I believe Zac and I solved most of the world's problems on the way here. So we got this thing.
He did send me a couple texts in the truck going, "I can't believe you did this to me, Edgar."
SOS.
Yeah, like zombie apocalypse, Idaho. All these weird. The planet is flat.
Went down the rabbit hole.
Yeah.
Sure.
Did you really scare him? Go down that rabbit hole?
He scared me.
He scared you? That's awesome. Hey, everybody, let's get started here today. There's a lot of things that we want to talk about. Before we jump in really quick, let's get a couple housekeeping notes out of the way. Hey, nominations for the Pool Nation Awards open June 18th. That is right around the corner. That's about a month away, right?
Yeah.
That's scary. It's coming around the corner. This year, the conference is going to be in October, so take that into note. Next thing after that is the nomination night, which will be August 20th, which will be the night before the Women's Summit. It will be special event. Janie, it's going to be all women nomination night. No men allowed.
Janie's hosting it.
So
right?
are you hosting it? No. Okay. Boo. So anyway, and then from there we go to the Women's Summit, which is August 21st and 22nd. And then after that, we roll right into the PSP Expo. So we're excited about that. We got the $10,000 Pool Pro Challenge. We got the Pool Nation Awards. We got the finals for the $10,000 Pool Pro Challenge. And that same night, we start the Pool Nation Conference. Right, Zach? Only business conference out for the Pool Pros.
Back to back to back.
Back to back to back, right? I want you to know that it's your fault, John, and your fault only.
Okay.
That we're doing all these events, because you're supposed to be the guardrail and you're supposed to be the one that says no. And
Look,
we said 10,000 Pool Pro Challenge and you just went, okay, let's do it.
Well, we've always said all in or all out, right? And we want to maximize our time, and we know we're going to be in Vegas, right? So we're going to do as much as we possibly can in that period of time.
Yeah.
So if it was an event, maybe a couple weeks later, I might have said, pump the brakes a little bit, right?
But if we're there.
But since we're already doing it, let's make the most out of it, right?
Yeah.
So for sure. No, it's going to be action packed, and every year it gets bigger and bigger for us. And this year is going to be no different, but we are adding on now the Pool Pro Challenge, or the championship, which, at first it's something that's never been done before. And we were a little hesitant, especially when we were doing the qualifiers, to kind of see what type of reaction we were getting from the Pool Pros. But the two qualifiers we had out here in McKinney and then also over in Oxnard when we did our boot camps, the feedback we got, and then the intensity that was in the room from the participants, right? And then it was like nothing else. So the championship is going to be quite the event, and I am very, very excited for it. So those of you that are going to be going out to Vegas, make sure you come out and check us out over there. We're going to be holding it, and it's going to be like nothing else before that you guys have seen.
It's going to be exciting.
It is going to be exciting.
And first place, $10,000.
$10,000,
dude.
right?
That's a lot of money.
That's what we said. What kind of, every year for the awards we give out, because our visionary sponsors are so generous and they're amazing. We give out a full pad, right? And literally like $15,000, $20,000 worth of equipment for the Pool Pro or for the Pool Guy of the Year and for the Pool Girl of the Year. This time we wanted to focus not only on the Pool Pro, but also on, the lost art of repairs and installation and the unsung heroes out there, and not necessarily people that are primarily just business owners, but people that might work for other companies that don't necessarily get the recognition that they deserve, or people just don't know how great they are. And there are a lot of bigger companies out there that have technicians that might not be on Instagram, that might not be social media friendly, and go out there every single day and bust their ass and do some amazing work out there. And they're literally artists, right? And they're pros at their trade, and be able to give them an opportunity or give them some recognition for the work that they do every single day. And then on top of that, who loves cash? Or who doesn't love cash? And to be able to give them $10,000, I think is quite the gift.
I could do a couple of things with 10 grand. I could do a couple of things.
Yeah.
So. Anyways, everybody, let's get started with this podcast. You know, there's a lot of conversation that needs to be had today. And so, Adam, we're going to jump right in, and, you know, I'm going to start with you, and, you know, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Just high level, I'm, founder and CEO of PoolBrain, 43 years old almost. I've got a beautiful, lovely wife who's just absolutely, I couldn't do anything without her, and an adorable baby boy who will be 1 year old next week.
In about 9 days, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome. What's the baby's name?
Luke.
Luke. Very nice. That's a good name. Luke.
It is a good
My
name.
Luke.
wife picked it.
Your wife picked it? It's very like manly, like Luke. Right? You can't. So.
And I get a little bit depressed right now because we're the same age, right?
And John,
I got a lot more grays right than Adam, right? And I'm like, holy moly! Now I feel even worse.
So for everybody that missed that, so Adam was off camera and went, "Holy crap, same age!"
Yeah, right?
You're like, "Whoa,
John,
damn! I thought you were
almost got your
60."
discounted coffee at McDonald's. Your AARP.
Absolutely.
So, Kevin, could you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, sure. I'm married. I've got 4 kids in their 20s, and I live in Arizona, Idaho, and Texas. I just kind of go between those 3 states a lot. Spending most of the time in Phoenix these days, close to Adam, and working on PoolBrain.
That's awesome.
So, Adam, let's now talk about how you kind of got started into the pool industry and how you ended up here.
Yeah, so I want to say it was 2006. I bought my first house, and I had a pool. Didn't know how to take care of it. Never really did that before. And I figured it wouldn't be too hard to just have a company come in, keep it clean. You know, how hard can that be, right? And long story short is 7 companies later, I realized there was a systemic problem. Like all these companies within weeks, a couple months at the most, would turn the pool green, and that would be that. And I just thought, they weren't good at their jobs. I didn't realize how hard it was. Never did it before. So I, at some point, found a company that did a great job. And I went out and talked to him in the backyard, and I was just kind of like, yeah, thanks for doing a good job. All the other companies suck. What's your secret? And ultimately, it was a one-man operation. So he didn't have to rely on other people to control the quality. He could just do it consistently, and he took pride in it. And that got me talking. Once I found out he was the owner, I started talking in more in depth on like, what is your numbers? Can you make money as a one-man operation? Do you want to grow? And I had a little bit of money in the bank, not a ton, but looking to invest in something. And I ended up offering to buy his route. And I convinced a buddy to go in halvesies with me on this route. It was about, I want to say 60-ish pools, 70 pools maybe. And the deal was he was going to train us to be pool guys and for 3 months and then walk away. And then we were going to be millionaires and just conquer the industry. That's why I'm super smart. So we all know how that ended up. And, the training, not to say this guy was bad at his job. He obviously did a great company. That's why I bought it. But the education was so hard to get back then. I mean, it's still kind of hard in some ways now, but very near impossible to get back then. And there's so many rumors and myths and, he said, she said, and we did it this way for 20 years, so it's fine. And, we didn't get taught about a lot of the things that we needed that were just basic. And, when I always remember this, when he was teaching us how to do chemical readings, and he's like, chlorine this, pH that, chlorine this, pH that. And I go, what about all these others on the strip? Like, what is that for? And he goes, disregard. And so that set us up for failure among many other things. And we lost almost all of those properties within the first 90 days. It was in the middle of summer. We took it over at the peak season, trying to, it was just a setup for failure kind of situation. But we didn't give up. We, just kept going. We tried to learn on our own through the internet. There's just nothing, right? So we learned as we went as best we could, like everyone did at the time. And we ended up, at least figuring out how to do it on a basic level and growing the company to, about 20 trucks over the next like 6 years.
Yeah. So what was your buddy that went? Is he still in business with you? Your buddy that bought their pools?
No, he hates pools. he lasted a couple of years and he's like, this is for you.
This is for you. And I'm out.
Yeah.
Yep. No, that's awesome. Now, obviously, and we know your journey, but along the way, you became very successful at what you were doing. And, And again, you've kind of gone through, we were talking, Zach and I were talking about it. Obviously, you've kind of gone through all the stages that we always talk about in Pool Nation, right? Like that foundational, that doing it all, that scaling, that enterprise. You know, as you grow your company, Pool Agency, right, was the name of it. You know, what were some of the successes within that company that you started to see once you lost the pools, you come back, you start to figure it out. What were some of the successes that you started to see?
Do you mean like before PoolBrain came around?
Yeah. So just when you were with Pool Agency.
Okay, so some successes would definitely be just in the systems that were early that weren't PoolBrain, but they allowed us to get those efficiencies. Like, we were really first to the table on software in general, among the first, obviously. And the original platform we used, I want to say it was in 2008, was called Service CEO. And it was, the cloud wasn't really a thing then, or it was just kind of like a concept then, or just starting. So you had to maintain a server room and really know what you were doing and have all the wires connected throughout the building to serve everything. And, it worked very well for us compared to what we were doing. We started out with MapQuest and a big map on the wall with push pins and the whole nine. So that was huge for us. And from there, we realized we had a problem that everyone has with quality control. And he said, she said, he didn't do this. Yes, I did. What do you do at that point? So we convinced a company, I think it was called Motivity, could be wrong. They're based out of the UK. They're a third-party integration company to develop an app for Windows phones, and which was the only like real computer-based phone at the time, and take pictures. And I remember they were like, "Why would you want a picture? Like what?" And they're trying to push back hard on that. But we convinced them to do it, and that alone was really huge for us and gave us a big edge over everyone who didn't have photo proof and or any of that stuff. And then eventually Service Bridge came around, which was basically the cloud version of Service CEO. I want to say it was like 2009, maybe 2010. And so we switched over to that, and it was a generic form of what you kind of see today. It's just an early version. That was huge. Also switching everybody to credit card payments. I did that in 2009 or 2010. It was basically the same time we did Service Bridge. I basically just fired anyone who wasn't willing to pay with a credit card or ACH automatic withdrawal. Some people at the time, got upset because that was really early. Like you had to have an email. People didn't even have email addresses.
I was going to say, so I was back doing pools 2007, 2008, and nobody wanted to put a credit card anywhere. It was like the big fear of a no back then.
Exactly. And so we lost, I want to say maybe 15%, which was smaller than I expected, ultimately. And of course, there's some grumbling, but it was one of the best decisions I ever made. You just take that whole payroll process or payment collection process off your plate. We didn't have the money back then to hire someone to do it full time, and that's kind of what you'd need. And so it was just great. It was just auto everything, and it allowed us to focus on the field and the improvements and everything you can take off your plate. Just opens up whole universes for you on other things that you need to be working on that you might not even know about.
Yeah. And at that stage, kind of how many pools did you have?
2009 was probably a few hundred.
So did you ever buy more pools in addition to the 60 initial, or did you just organically grow them?
We just grew it. We didn't buy any.
So in getting to talk to you, it's like your mind is very much driven on like problem solution. What's the problem? What's the solution? And a lot of that is in like processes and procedures. And I think a lot of the people that we talk to that are going through the 4 phases, it's like they're not quite thinking that way. Like what systems, what processes can I put in place? I'm curious to know, as growing a company as large as you did, what were some of the challenges that you faced? And like, how did that force you to kind of come up with a process or a system solution to curb that challenge?
I mean, where do you start on that? Yeah. There are so many. I already talked about like the collection issue. So that was a big deal, going to credit card. That really reduced our accounts payable and just the overhead for it. But another really, really big deal is we, at the time, even before PoolBrain, we developed a custom platform to do automated follow-up on those invoices based on how past due they were. And so it would send different email templates out to customers based on the past due date, and then also send internal emails to us saying, now you need to call this customer, here's the details. So we didn't have to think about it, we just did what we were told. And that took our accounts payable down by like 80% alone. And we were able to reduce office staff to do that, and that was huge. Another one is just education, just trying to get the training and education into people's hands, or even into my own hands, was virtually impossible. And you just kind of had to sift through a bunch of myths and old beliefs that aren't accurate, and go to all these classes at trade shows. And a lot of them are manufacturers, and sometimes they give great information, and sometimes they're just sales pitches. And so you're wasting a lot of time and still trying to have to figure out who's telling the right information, going forward. So definitely another challenge there is just trying to get the right information, education, and training. Auto insurance, it was honestly a huge challenge for us because, as you can expect, when you have 20 plus trucks on the road and it's not their truck, and they get paid by the by the pool, so they're just driving fast and they don't really care. Constant accidents, and we were kicked off of insurance carriers. Towards the end, before I sold the company, we were almost in a place where we were uninsurable.
Wow.
And we were paying insane amounts already. I ended up solving that towards the end, and it was brief because it was right before the transition, but we had maybe like a year and a half with the AI cameras in the trucks, and that kind of gamified it, number one, and it just gave us all the data immediately, like if they're rolling through a stop sign or texting while driving or whatever you want to set up for alerts, and then you can incentivize them to have the best score, and as long as they have a score over this, they get X amount of bonus. And it really genuinely just stopped the issues, because you can see the drivers that are just going to be problems immediately and just be like, that's not worth it. And so that was great. I mean, quality assurance, that's huge. Probably the biggest pain point in the industry is, you have a company, you've built it, you care about it, you poured your heart, soul, every dime you've made into it, and you're trying to scale it. And then you give it to someone who doesn't have that same motivation or tie, and they're completely unsupervised, and they're in 120-degree heat with 1,000 different variable combinations with, only so much knowledge or motivation potentially. And at some point, a tiny mistake will be made, if nothing else. And that tiny mistake means a green pool, and a green pool means a lost customer, means a bad review, which means more lost customers. And it's this chain reaction of terrible that starts. And that's always fun to deal with. That's the chief reason I developed PoolBrain, is that problem right there.
Yeah. I want to ask you, so, it seems like you're very much kind of process it oriented, and there's a problem and you're going to go find a solution to it. And I think most people, as they're going through the stages and growing the company and scaling and customer turnover and truck issues and stuff like that, I think a lot of people would just kind of patch holes and just kind of try to figure it out from there. How do you, when you were going through that, what was the thought process? What was your kind of engineering process to be like, okay, here's a problem, here's how I'm going to solve it? What was behind the thought process of that? Because a lot of people don't do that. A lot of people just patch and move on, patch and move on.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I don't understand exactly where you want me to go with this, but I'm going to take a shot at it. When I thought of the problem, when I saw the problems, my initial instinct was to incentivize people into doing better work, or train them better. Maybe they just don't have the information. So let's train them for 6 weeks. Let's train them for 8 weeks. Let's make them go through courses and then train them for 8 weeks. None of that solved it. Then so I was like, well, maybe we need to follow up on them and just do tons of quality control checks where random follow behinds and things. That did not solve it. So I thought, well, maybe we just don't have enough of that. So I hired enough supervisors that we were losing money as a company, because I just wanted to see if that would even solve it, and then how do you backtrack from there once you have it solved? That didn't solve it. And I went through every possible wrong answer to then finally arrive at, well, I'm probably going to have to solve this with software, and it's going to be very expensive. Is that something I want to do, or do I sell the company, because I can't keep spinning my wheels for 5 years plus? It's not my mindset to just sit in one place and not grow and be fine with it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So you reached a turning point, right? And a crossroads. And when did you? I mean, usually as a business owner, you figure out, okay, look, I have a problem. I need to find, I'm sure there's a solution out there, or somebody else who already has this figured out for us. And what we do is sometimes we throw money at it and go, okay, great. Do you have a program, or do you have something that I can figure out or that I can use that's going to be able to take care of this? Surely there's something out there to do that. at what point did you realize that the software that you needed or to utilize to help give you structure or to create the system that you wanted for your company, that it didn't exist, or at least not to what you needed personally or tailored to what you needed for your company? At what point and where was that turning point at where you just said, hey, look, most people would be like, oh, it doesn't exist, I'm just going to deal with it.
Right, you just patch it and move on.
Like, okay, I'm just going to deal with this, right? And I guess everybody has to go with this problem, but obviously you're built a little bit different, right? Where, likewise, I feel I'm kind of the same way too. It's like, well, if it's not available, then let's figure out our own way and do what we need to do. And I got to imagine that was the genesis or the initial or the birth of PoolBrain, right? Or at least the start of it, right? So talk about that and when you realized what you needed, or that need that you had couldn't be fulfilled by something else out there in the industry.
Yeah, and what's kind of crazy about that too is what is unexpected and what we see consistently when we talk to these large companies that are, signing up with us, is they've all built their own software as well. Like everyone around the same time decided there's nothing out there, no one's going to build it, we need to build it. And so this was not a problem unique to us. But to answer your question, around, I'd say probably 2013 is when, some of the other pool specific platforms came out. And I knew from the beginning, from these generics, like it didn't solve what we needed to do. We couldn't track our chemical costs. We couldn't automate anything chemically. It just, custom fields only go so far, especially if it's not attached to a body of water or a specific equipment set that you can classify at the system level. So I knew it didn't exist immediately when we started using the software and looking around. But what I always expected is that those companies would fix that problem, or pool-specific platforms would spring up that then address these problems that are core industry problems. But what we consistently saw for all the platforms that were out there, I mean, a lot of them are still around, is they solved the problem of making it easier to set up, because you don't have to set up the custom fields. You can do some body of water stuff, but it didn't actually address the core pain point of how do you control the quality of your product? How do you make sure you're profitable on chemicals? How do you bill actually? Like all these different specific things were not there. And it didn't. And I went to those platforms early for a couple of years at the trade shows, specifically the International Pool Spot Expo we went to every year for like 4 or 5 years. And every time I would go to those same software platforms and be like, please build this. Please build this. And they all kind of looked at me and either they were like, I don't get it, or we don't have a lot of requests for that. That sounds like a really big company problem. And I realized that I was going to have to do something or it was just not going to happen anytime soon anyway.
So, you obviously have that moment of aha, I got to build something, right? So, and that's a big difference from servicing a pool company to kind of going, hey, I'm going to go into the software industry and I'm going to create something. So at what moment did you do that and have that realization, hey, in order for me to scale, there's all these pinpoints and all these problems that I got to have, and I kind of have to take this on my own to start building? And my other question is, when you started that, was your thought process to eventually sell it, or were you just focused on your company and building something that was going to help you solve your problems?
Well, I was definitely just focused on solving a problem for the company. I wasn't sure we had the capital to even build what we needed to build. And even if we did, I wasn't sure if it would work as well as we thought it might. It was really experimental, and we didn't nail it on the first try or the second or the third. We had to really dial it in over a couple of years at least with our company, seeing what worked better or best for the ownership, the office, the field techs, without slowing them down, but also getting maximum benefit and proof of service to the customer and consistency and all that stuff. So yeah, definitely did not intend to be here when we first started it. Definitely didn't intend to sell it. But after 2 years of using it, like I said, I started it because I couldn't scale it past 20 trucks no matter what I tried for years. And then once we got this thing kind of dialed in, we almost doubled over the next 2 years. And I knew that was much more valuable to have that solution and to be able to get it out into the industry to potentially change the industry, honestly, because once you can scale it, it changes everything. So that's why we went that route. But there was, there was no alter or master plan to, be here.
Yeah. And again, a lot of it is what I keep talking about, right? Like your focus of, I'm not going to patch it. I'm going to just kind of go fix this problem. But it's true. There's a lot of other software programs out there, but they're really not built with things in place to be able to issue certain quality controls and to do certain steps that have to be done that pool techs can't jump and can't move on and can't do. And then that allows you to have the control, right? And obviously we talk about customer turnover. We talk about it all the time. It's one of the most incredible metrics you got to watch as you scale and as you grow, because you could pick up 40 pools, but man, if you're losing 40 pools on here, you're just kind of in that hamster wheel. So, you build this thing to fix your company. You get it to a point where you're able to scale, right? Now you're double that size, and you're being able to kind of fine tune your machine. At what point do you take the leap of faith and you go, wait a second, what I've done with my company is I've been able to put all these things, I've been able to build this software. This could really benefit a lot of pool pros in the industry. At what point do you take that leap of faith?
Like I said, after about 2 years, after about 2 years of having it dialed in and realizing, because on one hand, I could say, oh, great, I solved this problem. Now it's scaled to the biggest company in the nation. But at that point, so if I knew this worked so well, it was only a matter of time before someone else found out, copied it, et cetera. And also there was a real drive truly to kind of bring this to the industry to help other people because I had experienced the pain personally. And I'm not just talking about pain from growing a company or not growing a company that you're trying to grow. I think people can probably relate to this that have employees in the field, especially over a certain size. But I woke up every morning with just anxiety boiling in my stomach. Like what I'm going to look at my phone and there's going to be another truck accident. There's going to be, people screaming at me about their pool being green and you told me you were good, why, that kind of thing. You told me this would never happen again. You're a liar and I'm going to blow you up all over social media. You don't deserve to have a business. I mean, it was just angry people all day long. And my staff had low morale because it's just angry people all day long. And even if it's only 10, 20% of your company or less, it still feels like everybody, because when you get to a certain size, it's still, 30 people a day screaming at you. It's 30, 40 fires a day that you have to put out. And when you're in that cycle, you don't even have time to then improve operations or figure out your profit margins or any of that stuff. You're just surviving. So when I realized we had an answer to that, that's when I decided it was much more critical to do this than have a pool company.
It's funny that you say that because I'm at that point where I'm having that conversation where I have to tell them, like, think of it in percentages. Like, it's a small percentage. I know it feels like a lot of fires, but it's true. As you grow, it just continues to compound.
Yeah. I want to talk really quick about, something that you did specifically with a KPI with chemical costs. But before I do that, I want to make sure that I acknowledge some people out here. They did ask John, how did you get Zac Efron on the show? What a crowd, right? Like right off the bat. So, and then I'm getting such a cool background story. Insurance is a pain, obviously expensive. Manny Sanchez is out here going, love the brain. Love that. Kind of like that tagline, right? Love the brain. I like it.
I'm going to keep my mouth shut.
Yeah. Hey, John, this is a clean show. Let's keep it clean, right? Favorite thing about PoolBrain is actually made by pool service pros. Absolutely, 100%. I do want to ask you, so you shared a story with me specifically, when we started talking about, some of the things that the software could do, that is something that you're doing and we're going to talk about that I think are completely game changing in the industry, and everybody that's listening and is going to listen, make sure you listen to the rest of this podcast because we're going to drop some amazing stuff here. But you talk about the savings with regards to chemical cost with your company. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So when we first built PoolBrain and we were using it in the field, we really had only 3 main software features, and that was kind of the trifecta that we thought would solve the issues. One was guided workflows. You have to make sure people are doing the right things at the right times in the right order and not skipping it, forgetting it, or cheating it. And that's a lot easier said than done, especially without slowing them down unnecessarily. So we had to get that dialed in, and then also the custom alerts. So the system's looking at the data, it analyzes it in real time, provides you alerts on the back end, so you're no longer chasing people around saying, "What'd you do? Is it good?" Basically, you're not trying to find problems. Problems or potential problems are just finding you, and then you just decide how to react to them, and you're proactively preventing these issues. You have, a list for your office. It's just easy. And then the automatic chemical dosing. We had a very basic version of it. In my company on version 1, because that was critical to me because it was such a huge part of training, like a really big, the lion's share of the training, and it's the easiest way to turn a pool green and the most difficult thing to understand. So we took as much off the plate for the technician as possible, automated as much as possible. And just on those 3 features, and mostly I credit this with the chemical dosing, we saved like almost 40% on chemicals. It was almost 70 grand, the first year. So this is before we even really dialed it in. This is just like, hey, let's just see if this does anything. And it was great. And when you think about it, it's kind of obvious because even if someone, I don't know, what do most people do when they go out in the field? You can train them with the best chemical course and they get out there in 120 degrees and they're rolling through it, and they'll just walk up to a pool and be like, "Big pool, big pour, little pool, little pour." And that's the extent, to be brutally honest. And I'm sure people out there listening are like, "Yeah, it's kind of what I do." I did it, you get moving, it works, you just do it. And so overdosing, obviously very, very possible in that situation. Overdosing is just straight waste. Underdosing is also waste, because then either you have to put in a lot more next week to compensate, or more likely algae forms, and then you're putting in algicides and you're shocking it. And it's way more than you would have had to use if you did the correct dose. And then misdosing is something that doesn't get talked about a lot, but it definitely happens to where, new techs or whatever, they're using the wrong chemical there. And so they think they're doing the right thing, but they're putting in bicarb when they should be putting in shock or whatever it is. So all of that's waste. And not to mention the customer loss because of these problems. So it was huge, and it was just that. And that was the easiest thing to do, is just automate the things.
So how did it work back then in that first version, your dosing?
So we went off of the CPO handbook formulas, just as cookie cutter as you can get. And we did range target dosing. LSI, we can obviously talk about that all day. I do think that's probably a superior dosing method. But when it comes to automating or just being sure that they're going to do it, I never had confidence that we could tell them to do all this stuff and then each tech would faithfully do it. And so I would rather just get close enough, at least back then, with some automation, and then I know what's going in there is at least, sanctioned by a CPO and, all that stuff. So we just did CPO formulas and desired range targets that we could set, and that was it. And then, of course, tabs back then were a judgment call.
Yeah. And so what they would, the app would just tell them, here's this pool, here's what it's at, this is what you're going to add to the pool.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of how it works today. Obviously, we integrate with the Renda now, and there's a lot more options and more sophistication and some things you can do. But you just set your desired targets. You have a gallonage saved for the body of water. And if there's not, there's a built-in calculator in the app. So you just quickly enter the measurements based on what the guide is, and it gets saved once. You never do it again. And then all you have to do is enter the reading, and the reading is forced based on what you're controlling through your workflows, like requiring it, how often, and which ones. That all happens. So they have to do the readings, and then they get to the chemical screen, and it just fills it all in the field for them. And they don't think or do literally anything except for say, I confirm I'm putting these chemicals in, and they move on with their day. And even if it's not dead accurate, it is far more accurate than letting them just go wild.
Right, that overpour.
I mean, it's crazy because we talk about the hidden factory of costs, right? And death by 1,000 cuts. And I mean, that's just one element of running a business, and to have that much savings, it's like, that's a significant amount of savings.
Huge.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah. And I'm curious, is there any day from your past or from when you're in your business that's like just burned into your memory? Like, what fuels you to keep going today? Like, what is that driving force?
Thinking about a single day on the fly is always fun, but One that stands out in my mind, and I do not tell this story a lot for obvious reasons, but there was a time where I got an email from a customer, and basically it was their daughter, their young daughter, I think 7 or 8 years old, and it looked like she had 2nd-degree burns on her face and skin. And apparently she had a skin condition, according to them. And, they said that, well, we warned the office she has a skin condition. The chlorine can't be high, or, this happens. And the chlorine, I took it into Leslie's, it's like a 30. I'm like, a 30? Are you sure about that? Like, the strips don't even go that high, and, that kind of thing. And so sure enough, we went down and we had to obviously go through extra measures to get it measured beyond 10. And sure enough, it was way too high, like way, way, way too high. And so I went to the technician, and I'm like, how did this happen? And he's just like, I don't know. High chlorine's not bad. Low chlorine's only bad. And we trained him like we trained everybody else. But, what can you do? And so I had to, thankfully that was resolved in a way that was good. But, it could have been very, very bad. And so these types of things are fully preventable. It's just math at the end of the day. And a lot of people will push back on that because of old myths and, like, oh, the environment matters so much. And yes, the environment definitely plays a role in the maintenance dose, but for break point, it plays almost none. And either way, it's math. And if you can know the variables, which is complicated, but it's doable, if you know the variables, you can automate it.
Yeah, that's kind of scary. Yeah, that's the first time hearing that story, right? And it kind of puts it into perspective, of one, again, how important it is to have these processes and these procedures in play, because accidents like this could happen, and it could have been a lot worse. And not just a lot worse for you as a company, right? Because if they went after you legally or whatever it may be, but more importantly, if the young girl was actually really hurt, or so was some long-lasting effect that happened to them, and it puts into perspective, us as company owners, or in the backyard, and what we preach every single time. It's like, you're not just a pool boy or a pool girl, right? We have a very important job in that backyard. And when you start to grow, it's hard enough to get as a pool owner or as a one-man show or a one-woman show to understand the importance of it, right? But then when you start to scale and you have multiple employees, to get them to have the same type of buy-in or to have the skin in the game, to get that reaction, to me, it's like, slap in the face, but to them, it's like, oh, it's no big deal, right? I don't really understand it. And it's hard. It's hard to really train people or your employees to do things right, or to be able to verify these types of things, because you can't be in 50 different places at one time. So the importance of having these processes and these procedures are just hypercritical. What I want to do real quick, and I think we skipped over, we didn't, but you dropped something and you said, hey, you had a hard time scaling after 20 trucks, right? But we were, and I think you alluded to some of the problems that you were having on why you couldn't, but if we can backtrack just a little bit there and maybe go a little bit more into detail of the walls that you ran into, or why you couldn't scale, or why you were waking up with that anxiety, right? Was it simply because you were just all day, instead of focusing on growing the business, you were just putting out fires constantly, and it was getting to the point where if moving to 30 trucks is just going to mean that I'm going to have 50% more issues than I'm having currently, and I just don't want to do it, and you were at that brink of like burnout? Or is it that you were just physically, you just couldn't do it because you were just constantly losing clients as you were, you were losing 10 clients a month, and then you were gaining 10 clients a month, or however it may be, or you were hiring 3 employees and you were losing 2 employees, and it was a turnover thing. But maybe go a little bit more into detail of what those roadblocks were, and how you faced them, and why you went through them.
Yeah, so I definitely never ever considered that I shouldn't scale bigger because it would be a pain in the ass. I don't really have that in my DNA, but I definitely can relate to the first thing you said, where it's just you're putting out fires nonstop, and you can't focus on anything else because you're just putting out fires and trying to survive, and it's just treading water. It's just infinitely treading water, and it is a nightmare. And most of it stems from, your product, and your product at the end of the day, at least for us, the main product, we did service and repair and remodel and all that, but the main product, the moneymaker that then drove everything else, was the recurring revenue of weekly service or whatever frequency we were doing. And that, when you say, what is my product there? Your product is a human being that's unmotivated in the field, unsupervised.
Yeah.
And some of them are great, to be clear. I'm not saying that these people aren't good people. They're great people. I loved my employees. They worked very hard and they were very good. But they're set up for failure. Ultimately, is what I realized, is you have thousands of potential variable combinations between everything that could be on a site. There might be a quick skim. There might be, a main drain. There might not. You might be able to pull from the main drain. You might not. You might have a spa. You might have a detached spa. You might have multiple. I mean, you can just go on forever. And then the different combinations there and the settings and all the things, nobody, almost nobody who's cleaning pools has all of that under their belt, especially since a lot of them are new to the industry, and that's where you start, right? So to be successful, if you have to have all of this knowledge and you're just starting, you won't, and you're set up for failure. And so the idea is, if we could take that knowledge, that tribal knowledge, that specific knowledge for that unique body of water, because every body of water is like its own personality, right? You got to learn it, and just put it in a program to where it just says, hey, don't worry about it. I got you. I'm going to tell you when to do these things, and you're going to go through it. And then if for some reason you can't, at least then you know you have to do it, and you can call someone, get walked through, you can make a decision, not just forget it, and then catastrophic failure, pool green, customer lost.
Just imagine, just the difference, especially with your, because I think you're only as good as the people that work for you, right? And I would imagine initially there might be some pushback from the employees, because the hardest part about learning is unlearning. I always preach this, and they're taught a certain way, and then now you introduce this new program, and everybody's like, oh, you don't trust me, or I got to be babysat, or whatever it may be. But in the long run, I can see how, the benefit, or how it increases employee morale, because now they're not constantly being berated or yelled at or told that they're not doing a good job, or you're getting customer, and how that snowballs into such a wonderful thing, and how that alleviates all these fires that are unnecessary or self-inflicted wounds, right? That we create for ourselves, that we don't, not because we purposely do, it's just you can't, you can only do so much as one person, right? Or even if you have a manager or a service manager, and there's only so much you can do. So I have another question, but we're going to jump off to break right now. So let's just get to break, and then when we come back, I'll continue on.
Pool pros have specific needs when it comes to general liability insurance. The SPPA program has you covered. With 3 tailored and customizable general liability options, SPPA makes it easy for pool pros to feel secure. Find out more and get covered at thesppa.com. Now available, Pool Invoice. Pool Invoice is a pool billing software created specifically for the pool service and repair industry. It's developed for our industry and only our industry. Pool Invoice is built with recurring billing in mind. You can print, email, text invoices, or even send via WhatsApp. You can add recurring or yearly charges, accept credits, and set up autopay. You can even see when customers have seen the invoice. It even has a customer portal where they can log in and see, print, and pay invoices. It has all your customers' information on one page, so you don't need to search through hundreds of invoices looking for the one you need. Just go to the customer profile and it's all at your fingertips. Created specifically for the pool industry, Pool Invoice. Now available at poolinvoice.com. Blu-ray XL is the power of minerals working for you. Reduce your overall chemical costs and labor up to 50% guaranteed. Whether you have 20 accounts or 20,000, Blu-ray XL's direct pricing and free shipping to the pool trade have you covered. Improving pool professionals' profit and work-life balance is what they do. Blu-ray XL, the real mineral purifier. Visit them at BluRayXL.com.
Blu-ray all day. Aquastar's new pipeline cartridge filters, available in 2 sizes, deliver top-notch hydraulic efficiency along with best-in-class filtration performance, approaching that of DE filters. Uniquely designed, open pleat spacing means 100% of the media square footage is usable. And these claims are backed by NSF test results. Designed with the pro's time and comfort in mind, the patented double locking system improves safety and ease of access, making filter cleaners faster than ever before. Available now. Ask your supplier for pipeline filters today.
Natural Chemistry, a leader in specialty water care solutions for over 30 years, is proud to provide products that make pool service easier than ever before. Its unique enzyme formulations in Pro Series Pro Blend improve efficiency of your pool program while reducing frequency of filter cleaning and scum lines. Natural Chemistry is also well known for its wide variety of phosphate removal solutions that include a non-clouding formula in Phos-Free and extremely high-range removal with Pro Series Phos Remove or Phos-Free Max. Save time, save money, save work with Pro Series products. Stop sacrificing durability or efficiency with the help of Raypak's new Avia HD models that utilize NITEC, their exclusive industry-first technology. NITEC heat exchanger technology is Raypak's latest solution to superior strength and maximum efficiency when it comes to residential pool heating. With 900% more nickel compared to copper nickel in critical surfaces, NITEC creates an ideal surface to protect against scale formation and erosion without compromising on Avia's 84% thermal efficiency. Learn more at raypak.com/NITEC. The next evolution in lighting is here. Universal Color Logic 2.0 from Hayward. The latest in pool and spa lighting was designed with you in mind, making installation a breeze. Upgrades include a detachable cord and first-of-a-kind adjustable lower catch to overcome variations in plaster thickness. As always, Universal Color Logic lights retrofit into virtually any in-ground pool or spa while delivering industry-leading, vibrant color. Visit hayward.com to discover more.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Pool Nation Live podcast. We continue our conversation with Zac Efron. Have you heard that one before?
That's not sanctioned. Yeah.
Have you heard that one before?
Is there a Baywatch 2 coming out in the movie?
Is there something that somebody's trying to tell us that we don't know about that we're, you know?
I plead the fifth.
So there is something. I was trying to figure out because that was really kind of left field, right?
That was.
It really.
I mean, it is what it is.
It is what it is. Yeah. So, anyways, Kevin is also joining us here. John, I know that you.
Yeah. No. Right before we went to break, we were kind of talking about how you had this epiphany and how you kind of realized that you needed to rebuild your company, and in order to do that, you needed to create, PoolBrain, the software, these processes, right? These, in order to be able to grow and scale. But in order to do that at the same time while you're trying to run a successful business, and we know how demanding that is, and how expensive that is as well, it's not an easy feat to jump into building a whole new company, right? Or to build a whole new software program, especially coming from being a pool guy. How did you do it? Did you just, was it self-funded? Did you find partners? Did you go out looking for investors? Did you talk about, how you got the, the finances or the money in order to do it, and how it went for you?
Yeah. So in the beginning, remember that I definitely wasn't trying to make this a commercial product. I was just trying to solve a problem. So we weren't really going for outside investors, and we weren't really trying to go to this big, expensive solution. We're trying to do it as cheap as possible. And it's cute in hindsight, but I had a business proposal laid out for my partner and my mom and some other people to get some, a loan from or investment from on what it would cost to do it and what the payback would be and when I could afford to do that. And I think I told her the whole thing start to finish would be like 150 grand tops. And it is far beyond that, I promise you. So once, it's like, if I had known, I would say if I had known the actual expense and effort before doing it, I would have been like, there's no way I'll be successful, or that's way too big of a risk. So I'm kind of glad I didn't. But I just did it, one step at a time. We got to this point and we're like, we need more money. So now let's do this. And now we get to this point. Now we need, friends and family, investors and things like that. But mostly it was self-funded. And then we eventually sold our company June of 2020. and put every dime back into this product, and then also went in debt at least $500,000. Then got some more friends and family investors once we started picking up steam. And, eventually we took an angel investor on fairly recently, and we turned down a lot bigger offers and just other options because I was very, very set on having control of the product. To me, that is important, and the quickest way to ruin a product is to take outside money, or you see a lot of these people coming in from outside the industry trying to do it right, and they're telling you what they think you need or what other industries have done, and so they're going to come in and show you the way. But if you're in this industry, this industry is very, very, very unique, and we have unique pain points, and the software has to match that. For example, generic platforms like the one I was using prior to this, Service Bridge, Service CEO, et cetera. Now you've got, a million names that are generic where they appeal to a wide range of industries. They're kind of one size fits all. They don't work, period, because just off the bat, you have the wrong hierarchy and the wrong structure, the wrong architecture. So all the generics have it set up to where you have customers, you have properties, and then you have a bunch of custom shit, for lack of a better word. And that would be, whatever you want. And that doesn't solve the main problems. What you have to have is you have to have customers, you have to have properties, you have to have multiple bodies of waters for those properties. Then you have to have system provided equipment sets for those bodies of water. And then you can have automations and settings and interaction and all of that stuff. It opens up the door for all of the problem solving for that. But without those distinctions by the system from scratch, you cannot do it. It won't.
I mean, it makes sense if you think about it. I mean, we talk about scaling, right? And it takes a lot of money to do, right? And it takes a lot of effort, obviously, and time. So, as an industry, us being a small little niche, right, we had a problem, and there was a lot of different software programs or people out there doing it. But they were coming from a different perspective, right? Because they need to figure out, hey, how do we scale this and not be solely just stuck in the pool industry, right? They got to figure out, okay, so here's like a generic type of template, right? And it can work, maybe not work perfectly for you, right? But good enough, and it's better than what you got, right? So it made it hard, because I know some of the frustrations for us, because we tried multiple companies or multiple different softwares, and every time we gave feedback, it was always like it fell on deaf ears, because it's like, to them, we look at it like, dude, why doesn't this make sense to you? This is what we need. And to them, it's like, dude, if I do that if I pour all this money into this, it's just for you, and I can't apply it towards anybody else. So as a business, it doesn't make sense for us to be able to make that investment into that software and actually make it as useful as you need it to be, right? Where you come from the bottom up building it, and that's what makes PoolBrain so unique.
Yeah, he knows all the pain points.
It
right?
is, and it's a pool pro who's doing it.
And when we're talking about the scaling, right? We talk about each one of those phases. He's gone through all of them, and he knows the pain points at each one of those. I have an unrelated, really quick question. So obviously, you look at the software industry, and I would say back maybe 2008, 2009, you saw a lot of software companies come out, and they were all very niche, right, at the beginning, and then all of a sudden, I think a lot of VC money came in and stuff like that, and then it was like, oh, well, we have to make a lot of money, so we have to go after every market that we can, right? Now we can't be a pro at one. It's because you're kind of trying to do all that. Do you see those industries nowadays kind of going back and kind of going, oh, no, we do need to provide very specific products for these? Or no, you just kind of see, as a software industry in general, you just kind of see them just kind of going, no, we're just going to stick to the big.
So it's both ways. Like the overall trend is without a doubt verticalization. It's because every industry, to serve an industry best, you have to build something for an industry, and ours is more true than most on that vein. But with overall, I wouldn't expect some of these big publicly traded generic companies to all of a sudden switch. But I do see the trend to where there's acquisitions being made there, to where they're acquiring the vertical leaders and kind of rolling them under their brand, but they're still keeping them vertical. So they're not, just sticking generic, and they're not going vertical, but they're kind of using their big money platform to kind of acquire the vertical leaders. And they understand vertical is probably the future in some cases, from what I'm seeing from the outside looking in.
Yeah. In our industry, and it's funny because people just don't understand it. It doesn't matter how much you explain it to people. We are a very unique industry, right? And it doesn't matter how many times you tell that to a lot of the big players and stuff like that. People just think, no, you're not. You're just kind of like every industry that we could just come in, roll in, and
rinse
and run,
repeat.
and then it's not the case.
Yeah, so I want to start getting into some of the specifics about what PoolBrain is today. And we had a conversation a while ago, and you presented it as an accountability tool. And to me, that is like stuck in my head because of all the things that we've talked about today. Can you talk about some of the biggest advantages of PoolBrain for service companies?
Yeah, I mean, it's the ability to control your product, full stop. If you think you can control your product as a cleaning technician without a platform specifically designed to do it, I'd say you probably haven't grown enough to experience that pain point in the beginning. When I had a smaller company and I was the one in the field, in the trenches with these people, they were my friends. And we all had each other's back, and it was this pride thing. But once you go to like more employer-employee relationship, that friend bond goes away, at least diminishes at some point. It just unfortunately has to over time. And that's not enough anymore to carry their motivation. So, you put in, we had about $30,000 a month in marketing. We were putting in customers in the top of the funnel all day long. We had no problem with getting new customers. But once we got the customers, we were losing them out the bottom. And so that's why we weren't scaling. We were putting tons in the top, losing them out the bottom. How do you do that? You have to control your product. And the way you can control your product is these systems, guided workflows, custom alerts to catch anything, built-in customer feedback on top of that. So let's say there is something that the customer is not unhappy about for any reason. They can tap one button or click one button on the proof of service email or the customer portal, and then that's going to come right back to you. It's going to be logged to their account, logged to the technician record. It's going to be easily searchable and viewable on the dashboard. And more importantly, if someone clicks a thumbs down button, like I'm not happy for the service for any reason, your office can immediately call them up and just be like, hey, what can we do? The guy's down the street, we can fix this immediately. Talk to me. And it prevents the bad review. They just think you're awesome because you're on top of it. All they had to do is tap one button and you're there making it right. And that's rare when you have a guided workflow system, making sure everything is being done that's correct anyway to keep the pool from turning green. I mean, ultimately, that's the holy grail. If you didn't have green pools, sure, it might not be perfect, but you wouldn't lose customers. You lose customers when the algae's there, the green pool's there. That's the biggest source of lost revenue, full stop. And when you can control the chemistry automatically, and you can control the actions that lead to, like flow restriction, then you're solving green pools. And ultimately, that's what we can do with PoolBrain is we can take 95% of the things that can turn a pool green and just eliminate them off the table in a really automated fashion.
It's like goes into the proactive versus reactive. And we talk about customer experience, and that's the difference, right? That's the big difference in the companies that are doing it well and they have that retention. They're very proactive about it.
No, I think, and I mean, you kind of went over and you talked about the feedback thing, and I think that's just genius, right? And, most business owners immediately kind of want to be like, see no evil, hear no evil. If I'm not hearing any issues, I don't want to know about it or whatever. But the reality,
not us, it's them.
Yeah, but the reality is, right, this is the type of stuff as a business owner you need to know and get ahead of, right? And kind of get the temperature of what's going on. And I personally had an experience. We had to let go one of our employees, right? And we've built such loyalty over the years with our people, and just having casual conversations with them after we let one of our employees go, and hearing some of the things that, oh, okay, it makes sense, John, this is what he used to do, or this is what he did, or whatever. And it's like, bro, why didn't you tell me this? And then that was my first reaction. But the reality was, well, shame on me. Why didn't I know about this? Not because I know I can't be there verifying all these things, but why am I not, or why don't I have a a channel open to where we get that type of conversation or feedback from our people before it turns into a fire. And it might be, maybe initially, it might be something that will cause a lot more work, or maybe a little bit more heartburn or some of that anxiety or whatever. But once you have visibility of it, then, I mean, how do you fix something you don't know, right? And if you have that visibility and you're able to figure out what your people are actually asking for, what your customers are, because we have two clients. We have our internal customers and our external customers, and sometimes we kind of forget, you know, if this customer has been great, we've had them for years, they've never complained or whatever, we're not going to give them any extra attention or figure anything out. But I just think that, you know, having that included, you know, with your software, I think is just worth its weight in gold.
Well, like you said, internal customers, and then the feedback, right? It's the same thing. I just had this conversation. Like, the people that are doing well don't take any of your time and attention. So you tend to the 80-20 rule, right? You're focused over here and you're not giving. But if you have a prompt that is constantly reminding you that they're doing an excellent job, well, now you can be proactive about that to your team, your internal customer, and give them recognition and give them praise, you know?
Mm-hmm. No. Hey, before we jump into the next thing, I do want to jump in here because we've kind of been chit-chatty and forgetting about everybody else that's out here. And so, great show. I'm getting over here. Somebody's asking, I got to know, what's the next big thing coming from the software we should be watching for? We got that in store for you. Wait for a couple minutes. We're getting there. We're getting there. I do want to come over to Instagram and apologize to all the people that we left out here. And Teledaddy, Todd, Blue Tide Pools, big shout out. Imperial Pool Services, big shout out to you out there. Rodolfo, Laco Bautista, Jen, big shout out to you out there. Carlton Pools, big shout out to Tule Mac out there. Johnny, the Grit Game, is on listening. Big shout out to him out there. Ovas, Sienna Esteban, Chaps, what's going on? Penn Valley Pools. That's a mouthful right there. That 200 pool guy, that was a hard one. Power Concrete, Cali Pools, AS Services, Poolside with Brian. What's going on? Jay Money, big shout out to you. I owe you a phone call, and Jay's going to be coming out, John. We've got the dates for Jay to be coming out. Pool Rangers. Let's see here. Pool Rangers, we are switching over to PoolBrain. The husband loves the built-in features. So big shout out to everybody out there. They're from Florida.
Welcome, Pool Rangers.
A family out there. We need to have her on too, by the way. She's a kick-ass. She kind of runs the company. So Macy Denise, big shout out. And Pineapple Pool Boys, big shout out to all of you. And Michaela. Pineapple Pool Boys, what's up, boys? Signed up 5 new accounts this week, all referrals, and they're out in Arizona. So big shout out to all these guys out there. So, Mr. Flawless.
Yeah, so let's get nerdy here.
Yeah.
So when somebody starts with PoolBrain, right, and they look at some of the reports that are generated, what are some of the aha or shocking moments that or realizations do they get, or the feedback that you've gotten from what you have to offer them, from the data and the metrics that you guys track and keep for them?
Yeah, chemical cost profit report and the alerts they see that they had no idea things were happening, and now they're seeing, like, this guy doesn't start until 11 a.m. What's going on with that? Or he's spending an hour on every property to milk the clock, or things along those lines. But a profit report cost, that's overwhelmingly the biggest advantage, and what people are surprised about, because everyone thinks they know their numbers. Even I did. When I first started, I'm like, chemicals are about here and this is about there. And it was wildly different. And when you can actually see in a clean report that these are the pools that you're losing money on, and why, is it pay? Is it chemistry? Is it this, are you not charging enough? And these are the pools you're making low money on, and why. And you can set that custom variable to say, I want a 40% profit margin or whatever, and show me anything that's less than that. You can really get in the weeds surgically and start making some changes. And I think people are very afraid to raise prices in general, and that's understandable. I get it. But when you can clearly see that you're working for $10 a month and you're working your rear off,
it makes it a little easier.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah, you have the ammunition to go in and be like, you need to be paying more.
Yeah, and it won't hurt so much if they, it's like, okay,
if they leave,
happy for you to go.
Yep.
Yeah.
But
Exactly.
I got Adam was a good guesser like me back in the day.
Are you a good guesser? But Zach does this to me all the time. He's like, I'm a good guy. I'm like, shut up, dude. Like, no,
But what
we
I'm
don't
scared
guess,
of
right?
is-
And you know what? PoolBrain is built on not guessing. They give you
I
every
know.
single number.
And I'm gonna be that one in shock when I see the data.
I'll tell you what
You're
I'm
gonna
a
cry.
bad guesser at, and I thought I was a good guesser, is body of water gallon size.
Yeah.
I used to be able to be like, oh, that's a 15,000 gallon body of water right there. and after I actually had the calculator built into the app and we were doing it, I'm like, man, these are like half the size. That I thought.
Shoot.
Just way smaller than people think.
Yeah.
So we had a request, and I think it's time that we.
It's time to go
It's
down
time.
that.
Let's get into what's coming next, because when you talk about game changing in the industry, there are some things that are coming that are going to be just that. So let's dive in.
All right. So the quickest thing coming next is actually one of our most requested features. And I'll be honest, I didn't really understand this when I first, saw the overwhelming request for it, but it's surcharging. The ability to automatically pass on credit card fees to customers that are using credit cards, basically. And that is, enormously requested. I do understand it now. I've had a chance to talk to a lot of people, but I was always like, well, just raise your prices. But no, I get it. It's a great feature that's coming in a couple weeks. And then right after that, maybe a week after that, is going to be inventory. And this has been a long time coming. I think I stupidly announced on a podcast 3 years ago, like, oh, we're about to have inventory. because again, I didn't understand yet quite how difficult this is. It takes time. So we now have an inventory module built out where you'll be able to create locations and sublocations like a warehouse, room A, aisle 6, bin D, or whatever. And, any combination of that, and then have your inventory. So you can track it as simply as you want, like just this closet, what do I have in there, or as complex as you want. And you can also create trucks, which are also inventory locations. So you can, keep track of your whole fleet and all the critical information and what is on the truck, which is something I always wanted, never had. It's a complete game changer to bring to the industry, where you can know exactly the dollar amount that's on the truck of product or tools, because you can also create tools now in PoolBrain as of this update launching in a few weeks. And those tools can get assigned to trucks or locations, products can get assigned to trucks or locations, and then you can assign trucks to technicians. So you can see which technicians have which trucks, what's on those trucks in the form of tools or product. And then as jobs get completed, it'll prompt the technician to say, hey, these are the products that are on the job that you should have used according to this. Please make sure this is accurate, change anything that's not, or add whatever. And it's strictly for inventory. And once they go through that confirmation screen, it will automatically pull inventory quantity off their truck to keep that inventory accurate. Which is just another game changer for the company in general, and even technicians knowing what's on their truck and are they running low, and what they need to buy, et cetera, et cetera. So that's phase 1 inventory that we're going to launch. And obviously that's a very quick blitz on it, but it's super cool. And phase 2, which is already in progress, is going to involve a couple things. One is going to be a shopping list in the app. So you and on the web, so you can manage it, who needs to buy what, and you can do that manually, but we can also do a lot of automation with that. Some really, really, really cool stuff to where just as you can set things to where as you're running low on chemicals or whatever, your consumables, we can automatically add that to the shopping list, or, have Office manage it, or whatever you want to do with your company. And then another big part of phase 2, the big part of phase 2 is going to be integrating with Heritage Pool Supply. So all the ordering will be directly integrated. And to be clear, right now, we do have an integration that's great with Heritage today. That's super valuable. And it's the ability to sync your prices automatically. So back in the day with my own company, and what everyone does with their company to this day, is if they need to adjust pricing, then they go to a book or a website and they just drill through and compare manually for days. And if they see the difference, they're manually updating that for the cost. And then they have to go in and say, what's the profit margin I want here? And how does the price change based on this cost? And it takes days. It's a full-time job for days. And so now we flipped that on its head to where it's automatic, to where you can map the products you want to sync, and then it's going to check every night. Did my cost change? Cool. Then I'm going to sync that cost change to PoolBrain. And we have a feature for markup in PoolBrain. So you can set it by category or product. And so if this category has a markup of 120%, for example, and the cost changes, it's going to also mark up the price based on that markup. So everything is fully automatic. And in this day and age, especially with just like the chaos and uncertainty in general, you need to protect that profit margin because things are always changing.
You just pissed off a whole bunch of people in the room when you said that.
No.
With all these price changes and all.
No, it's
I
true,
mean,
but-
our industry, it's a shit show with all these price changes. But that's a game changer
But how
right
critical
there.
that is,
Yeah,
because
it's a
I
game
can't tell you
changer.
how many times I mean, now is so important, right? Just like, we get phone calls and, oh, hey, can you come out? I'm not happy with service, or I need somebody to come out. And, we're busy and we might be booked out. And if we can't get out there that day, we have to make it a point that we have to be out there that day at the latest tomorrow, but more importantly, be out there right now. Otherwise, what ends up happening is, we ended up going with another service company, and I didn't have the opportunity to be able to, sell our services. Same thing too when you go out and you quote for equipment, or you're doing an equipment pad, or you're doing a bunch of work in the backyard. The last thing, how great is it to be able to log in, do what you need to do, and then to be able to actually get real-time prices as you're kind of doing things and kind of give people an idea, and not have to say, okay, hold on real quick, I'll get you a quote tomorrow, I'll email you a quote tomorrow, or I'll give you whatever it may be, and then you get tied up, you forgot, or you did whatever, and you don't have the prices. One, it makes you look a little less professional, right? And then two, chances are you open yourself up to being able to lose or not closing the deal right there and then.
The other thing, John, if you think about it, and this is one of our biggest pet peeves, right? Prices go up, and if you're doing a repair, it's a little bit easier to pass it on to the customer,
sure.
right? Because it's just a product, it's an install, it's a repair. But when we talk about chemicals and all these constant price changes, and one of the challenges for the pool pros, knowing what their cost of service is, and the number one variable being chemicals, and having to go back and do that. And let's be realistic, right? Zach, you do a lot of the stuff manually. It's like you don't do it once a week. You guys don't go and update the prices once a week. But to be able to have something that's updating automatically and automatically seeing real live numbers when you see those price increases is critical.
Yeah, and I mean, like years ago, it was an annual thing, and it was a 2-week. I mean, I would literally have a folding table and I'd be set up and I had the spreadsheets and I'm going through and I'm figuring out and I'm searching and typing and then figuring out margin and all this stuff. And it's a painful, time consuming process. And with all the rapid changes that are frequently happening now over the last few years, I mean, there's times where we're selling product and then we try to stay on top of it, and then all of a sudden we catch it and it's like, this went up $75, $100, $150, and we're like, well, how many of those have we sold? And that's what's beautiful is like, I love this because we're talking about hidden cost factories. And like, I'm at a point where I'm like, we've learned how to make money. Now we need to identify how to keep all the money we can. And you're attacking these things, like you said, like when it comes to inventory, it's like there's systems, but they're very broad industry-wise and very generalized. But you have something that's very tailored to the pool industry to solve these problems.
So what other things you got in the pipeline that you're gonna?
Well,
I have one that I'm waiting for you to talk about. I'm over here dancing.
I know what it is.
We're almost there. I want to make sure we cover the heritage stuff fully though, because that's one thing we have today, right?
Uh-huh.
What we're already working on and what will come, probably 2-3 months after we launch this other inventory phase. Is going to be a much deeper integration suite of features with Heritage for having everything built into the app for ordering, availability checking, things like that. So the idea is whether you're out in the field or in the office, you can easily say, show me how many of these skimmer baskets exist in these locations, which one's closest to me, what do they cost? And then from there, you can say, give me 3 of those, put them on will call, I'll be there in a second. Or ship these to my office or some custom address or the property I'm standing at, that kind of situation. And then from there, you can have all your purchase order management and shipment tracking completely within PoolBrain. So you never have to leave PoolBrain for the availability or price checking experience or the ordering experience or even the receiving and delivery part of that. It's just all there in one. And so, we're developing some cool things with them on both sides, and it's going to be really, really powerful.
Quick question for you. So anybody that's using PoolBrain that wants to get that integration today, what do they do? How do they do it?
So for Heritage, you would go to contact Heritage. I believe there's an email. It's like I don't want to give out the wrong email.
Let's get out a couple of email addresses.
on our help article section. So
Matt McDermott, we're going to give out your email address.
So in our help article section, if you go to help.poolbrain.com, it'll have the layout and the email there. But or you can just reach out to team@poolbrain.com or start a message on the website, and they can tell you. But there's an email that you email Heritage at, and then they will give you an API key. You plug the API key into settings in PoolBrain, and then you would match the item part numbers. And they're working on some cool things on their end for auto matching it's going to make that, pretty much a press of a button situation. But for now, you would just look up Heritage Pool Plus and you would put in the Heritage part number, and then you would never have to think about it again, and it would update.
That's awesome. I have over here, dollar amount on the truck is awesome and assigned to a pool tech. Let's go. And then, of course, they're teasing me, kind of going tea time. So we're always spilling the tea here. So they know that they want to get to the good stuff that I'm talking about. So what else you got in the pipeline?
All right. So this is cool because this is something, there's been a lot of things that we wanted to do since day one of this, once we realized all the data we had and what you could do with that data. Like I said, it's a lot more difficult. It takes a lot longer than people think to get to this place, but we're at least at this phase, which is super cool. It's something that, so when I put in automatic chemical dosing in the platform, it was like half automated, if you're being honest, because you have your breakpoint dosing, which you go and you say, okay, it's at a 1 today, chlorine. What do I need to put in this pool to bring it back to a 3 or a 5 or whatever you're targeting? That is just a straight equation math. You can automate it. We integrate with Arinda, obviously. They do a great job with that, and we use their calculations for all those automations. But then there's another half of that, which is, okay, now how do we keep it where we want it so that next week we don't come here and it's green or a 0, like ideally it'd be 1, 2, 3, whatever. And that part, we checked deeply. Nobody in the world has addressed this in any meaningful way. And so you're talking about typically one of two things in that situation. You're talking about salt systems, or you're talking about chlorine tabs. And depending on the region, some are more prevalent, but tabs is still huge. And when you train a technician on how to dose tabs, like how do we do it, right? Every pool's different. Good luck. In the summer, fill it up. In the winter, I don't know, feel it. Use more if it's 0, use less if it's high. It's just a complete crapshoot, truly. And maybe a pool needs 10 tabs and 2 floaters, and maybe a pool needs 1 tab. It's all over the map, right? And so when you're trying to solve what we're trying to solve with full automation and full accountability, how do you address that problem? And the reason we can't do it with straight math is because of the variables, the unknowns, and that it's different body of water to body of water. A lot of that is environment, bather load, or the dog swimming, or the kids swimming, are they having parties every weekend? Is there a pool, a tree dumping leaves into the pool? It's different. And most of these variables, unfortunately, at the end of the day, are unknowable. Another big one is weather, though. How hot is it, sun exposure, precipitation, things like that. And this is knowable, and we can pull this from an API and predict based off it. So long story short is we trained an artificial intelligence model across millions of data points to dose tabs automatically based on a chlorine prediction. So you can put in a target and you can say, well, consider 0 if I show up a failure, consider 5 a success, or anything up to 5 a success over 0, anything above a 5 a failure, and we're targeting a 3, just using examples. And you can control these variables when we release this in a few months. If you're targeting a 3, so far in the test data we have, and I want to be clear, this is a test environment, real world, you never know. But it is accurate almost every single time within about 1 ppm. So if you target a 3 and you miss at a 2 or a 4, you're just fine.
Yeah.
So even if it's further off, I would say 2 things. Number one, it's not going to be further off than Trevor, the pool guy, who's especially, it might not even be his fault. He might just be covering a route. There's all these things that we expect to throw people on these pools and they know how to do it. No, it's a complete guessing game. So the idea is that we are now fully automating chemistry to where you show up and you do nothing. You need to train them on how to identify chemicals and handle them safely and how to introduce them to the pool, but you don't need to train them on any equations or how much or when to use whatever. And and it just works. And tabs are obviously a big part of not turning a pool green and a big part of protecting your investment, your bottom line on that stuff.
That's incredible. Right?
It is.
And the AI now, so obviously we know that AI right now is changing the world, right? And I think we're only seeing the tip of the iceberg of what it's going to do. You know, at what point did you kind of see that coming into the picture and get excited? Because I'm sure you got giddy like crazy and started, you know, training that to be able to do that.
So we started training this AI about 7 or 8 months ago. Took, again, like everything, longer than you think,
Yeah.
harder than you think. It's you know, it sounds simple, but to actually get the model trained to get very reliable, it takes a lot of experiments, a lot of trial and error to see what's actually valuable there. And and then of course you have to set up like what weather is valuable as well, because you pull weather data on the API and you get hundreds of data points. And so you have to really distill it down and figure out what is critical there. And I don't want to go into that too deeply, just for proprietary purposes.
Yeah.
But there's more there than you think, but it can be done. It is being done in AI, like you said, definitely tip of the iceberg. I mean, this is game changing for the world on all the things, and it's game changing for the industry. And we plan to be, you know, continue to be on the forefront of this, developing things that have never been developed, that solve big pain points. And the nice thing about AI as well, and I was going to say this earlier, is even if it's, you know, this is the worst it's ever going to be.
Yeah.
So
True.
AI gets better, but also the models in general get better, because just like humans, the more data they see, the more they do it, the better they get. And especially when they can see each body of water and treat each body of water as a different math problem, you don't even really need a lot of these variables, because at the end of the day, the variable is just what's the chlorine demand. And so it knows this body of water has a higher chlorine demand, so it just keeps upping the dose until it gets success, and then it dials in that success. And then based on the weather, it's going to automatically dial it down or up, or, you know, whatever changes.
That's incredible.
No, this is.
I can go down that rabbit hole all day.
Look, I'm really excited, and not just because it's going to be great for us, right, as an industry, but I'm going to take it back a bit here and just say how far we've come as an industry, right? And it's people like you guys that are help leading the charge. We've been talking about, you know, our pool industry and how we've been a generation behind when it comes down to technology, right? And it's always been because it's good enough, right? And this is all that's available. Yes, we can do more, but
We don't need to improve it.
We don't need to improve it because it's just good enough,
Yep.
right? You know, and we've always been so many years behind every other industry in like tools and products and like features and things that can be done. And it's been very frustrating, right, on our end, you know, knowing that so much more can be done, but it's simply because it's just not economical or worth it for us, right?
Okay, I gotta
Cost-benefit
take a time
analysis
out.
here.
I gotta
Yeah.
take a complete time out here because you're not going to believe this. Look at who messaged. Matt McDermott sent him an email and said, "For more information or to request an API credentials, contact customer support at heritagepoolflows.com." I am not kidding. Look at that right
Matt's
there.
like,
He was just very concerned that people don't contact him.
Yeah.
I don't blame him.
Matt, you are
Matt.
the man. We appreciate that.
So, but, you know, getting
Yeah,
back
we
to
would.
my...
And by the way, we would never give out the email address.
Oh, I know. Yeah. But it was very frustrating, right? Being in the industry, knowing that we have these tools or we can do better, but we choose not to, right? Where now, you know, we see companies like Poolside Tech, right? You know, we have you guys that are looking at this, and yeah, I mean, Poolside Tech, it's like, you know, they created this product and the attendant, right, on technology that has been around for decades, right? I think this could have been done years ago, but there just wasn't enough of a need apparently from some of the others.
And
above.
you know what it took,
Right.
right? What did it take? It took another Pool Pro
Oh,
to put it
100%.
together, because for some reason within our industry, it always takes a Pool Pro to stand up and go, "I'm going to
We'll
fix
say
this
enough
damn
is
thing."
enough, and we need something, right? And the same thing too, like we could talk about like with products and like, you know, drain plug placements, right? Or we talk about like, you know, filters exploding, you know, and these are some of the concerns that we've been having for years and years and years that haven't really been addressed. And then you got a company like Aquastar that comes out, okay, I got this, hold my beer, I'll make it happen, I'll figure it out. And it's like, it's really simple, and it's been just really frustrating. And I think that's part of the reason why some of us have become jaded over the years and kind of get grumpy. You know, I always talk about why pool guys are always grumpy, and I think this is kind of part of it. But I look at it now as like, it's so exciting because there's been such a movement, man. And to see where AI is our future, right? And seeing our little industry, right, taking it and embracing it and finding a way to utilize it to make it better for us now instead of waiting 5 years from now or 10 years from now, right? When things are flying around and, you know, whatever it may be, who knows what's going on.
And then we're still
And then
behind.
finally learning, finally saying, okay, we're going to adapt and we're going to somehow integrate it because it's more cost enabling for us, or, you know, it's not going to cost us as much. It's dirt cheap now. Or kudos to you guys, right? And these are some of the small things that we look at and, you know, we kind of glance over, or we don't really put, maybe I'm going too deep in this. I don't know. But, you know, we need more of this, right? And
we do.
Thank you, right?
Yeah.
This is because you better believe it that because of what you're doing, right? Because of what like Aquastar is doing, because of the changes in the, you know, in the way, like even Heritage, right? You know, how they, their culture and the way they look at things, right? How, when we talk about game changers, it's not just a term that is just loosely thrown around. We truly mean it because you guys motivate, you inspire the change, because now the bigger companies and others are going to look
They
into
see
it and say,
it.
hey, look,
They have to catch up.
they have to do
Yeah.
it, right? And then look, you know, competition, right, is the mother of innovation. You know, it really creates people to like, okay, I got to do better and do more and do more, and then at the end of the day, we all benefit from it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So kudos to you guys. That's awesome. I cannot wait to try this and use this, the AI function of it, because that is the future, 1,000%. Yeah.
John.
PoolBrain rules. I don't even use all of the functionality. That's our boy David from Cap City. Big shout out to you. And then, by the way, Pool Rangers sent us the customer support at heritagepoolplus.com. So big shout out to them out there.
I was going to say, John, final thoughts.
Yeah.
No. We have one more thing that we have one more thing that we want to talk about out here that you guys have coming.
It's your moment.
It's the last two were my moment.
Do we have it coming?
We do.
There's lots of things that.
Remember we wrote it right there.
Well, we have that now.
You have that now.
Yeah. So
Let's
there's
talk
lots
about
of,
that.
There's
a
other
little
things
bit.
that are coming to be clear that are big.
Can
but those are
can you share some of those?
little confidential. At the moment.
Okay.
But remote data monitoring.
Yeah.
That is the future of this industry, in my opinion. It's just to what extent. We integrate with a product now called Water Guru. It's a great product. Hangs under a skimmer lid. You can get a chlorine reading and all the other chemistry that you want from it. And then on top of that, you'll get flow, like whether or not the pump is actually running or not during the times it should be. So you can actually remotely get, just from putting a device under a skimmer lid, like, is your pump down? Which is huge, because at the end of the day, what we're trying to solve is the number one problem is don't turn the pool green.
Right.
That's an oversimplification for sure, but don't turn the pool green and 90% of your problems aren't there. At least not fires. So not turning the pool green, chemistry. We just talked a lot about how we control that. And then your flow. So you solve those two variables, you're not going to turn a pool green. And the biggest issue, or one of the quickest ways to turn a pool green, is if your pump goes down, you show up the next week and you didn't know it, and now you have a green pool. And the customer is always going to blame you. Spoiler alert, it doesn't matter. So in this case, if you're using remote data, even with what we have today, you can truly tell your customer, I can guarantee you this pool will not turn green. Because even if it's a chemistry thing, which it shouldn't be, if you're using the platform on all its features, you'll see that too. You'll see 3 days in a row. You can set alerts however you want, but I would set one saying if it's 2 or 3 days in a row with chlorine at 0, tell me. And I'm just going to have the closest person go fix that, and you can charge them more for that. So $50 a month more, whatever you want to do, you put the device in there, you own the device. If they cancel your service, you take the device. And you can just reap the extra profit while simultaneously having a lot lower liability and cost. And I think that's just enormous. And that's the tip of the iceberg, as you know.
Yeah.
My ultimate vision for this is if you walk into a backyard and the equipment on the pad can talk to the internet, which I think pretty much all of it will on a long enough timeline, and a lot of it can now. then you can connect it to that body of water in PoolBrain. And we already have an alert system, highly customizable, to where you can say, whether it's remote data or this data, treat the alert differently and show me on the first, trigger, or show me only after it triggers 2 consecutive times in a row across more than 2 days, or after this percentage drop, or, a million different things, only on these service levels. And so you can just set your company on autopilot and just react to the things that are coming in, and everything is running like a top.
And I tell you my dream. Obviously, I don't do pools anymore. But we talk about vacation rentals, right? So I'm gonna go all the way back, and this has always been my vision. I go all the way back to my Airbnb days, and I used to do tons of them because it was Disneyland. They were kind of getting trashed. We had to do them twice a week. My vision has always been, and I talk about Zac for his office, right? The big TV. And imagine having all that stuff connected through PoolBrain, where I can wake up in the morning and grab my phone and just kind of look through all those and go, where's my problem points? Right. Yep. And just be able to go to that tech and go, hey, we normally start on pool, 3 or 4. Today, you're going to start on 10 because we're having some issues there, or I'm going to go there. Right. And you're just waking up and you're just being able to see.
Well, you're able to be proactive instead of reactive, right? So you get to actually look at these and then figure out
that dashboard sitting right there in the office to just be able to see all those data points and be like, pow, 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 pow. That's the dream.
We share the same dream.
Good. I'm good. Hey. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, what you were talking about is also what I envision, but even more automated, to where in the morning, your technician just has the schedule auto dispatch based on the data that's come in.
I don't even need to look at my phone.
Well, I'm a little disappointed. I was hoping that you were going to say you have Project Drone, where you dispatch drones to dose a pool or something that based off of emergencies.
That requires an NDA. That might be coming down the road. Let's not talk about that right now.
Give me
hold my beer.
Challenge accepted. Right. So now we're going to have to go and figure out what drones he's going to use so we can invest in them.
Just imagine that, right? Drone hovering over, just dosing my pool.
Just dropping the drones.
Yeah, right.
The drone's going over to see the pool usage, right? There's an alert that there's too many people in the pool. Here comes the drone.
There's a photometer.
Data point.
It's actually here's pH, scanning it. Who knows? Hey, we laugh about it now.
We've officially gone down the rails.
Yeah.
So, hey guys, let's do this. Let's take our final word from our sponsors. When we come back, I want to get some final thoughts, and I have a feeling I'm going to get some good thoughts. We'll be right back.
Pool pros have specific needs when it comes to general liability insurance. The SPPA program has you covered. With 3 tailored and customizable general liability options, SPPA makes it easy for pool pros to feel secure. Find out more and get covered at thesppa.com. Now available, Pool Invoice. Pool Invoice is a pool billing software created specifically for the pool service and repair industry. It's developed for our industry and only our industry. Pool Invoice is built with recurring billing in mind. You can print, email, text invoices, or even send via WhatsApp. You can add recurring or yearly charges, accept credits, and set up autopay. You can even see when customers have seen the invoice. It even has a customer portal where they can log in and see, print, and pay invoices. It has all your customers' information on one page, so you don't need to search through hundreds of invoices looking for the one you need. Just go to the customer profile and it's all at your fingertips. Created specifically for the pool industry, Pool Invoice. Now available at poolinvoice.com. Blu-ray XL is the power of minerals working for you. Reduce your overall chemical costs and labor up to 50% guaranteed. Whether you have 20 accounts or 20,000, Blu-ray XL's direct pricing and free shipping to the pool trade have you covered. Improving pool professionals' profit and work-life balance is what they do. Blu-ray XL, the real mineral purifier. Visit them at BluRayXL.com.
Blu-ray all day.
Aquastar's new pipeline cartridge filters, available in 2 sizes, deliver top-notch hydraulic efficiency along with best-in-class filtration performance, approaching that of DE filters. Uniquely designed, open pleat spacing means 100% of the media square footage is usable. And these claims are backed by NSF test results. Designed with the pro's time and comfort in mind, the patented double locking system improves safety and ease of access, making filter cleaners faster than ever before. Available now. Ask your supplier for pipeline filters today.
Natural Chemistry, a leader in specialty water care solutions for over 30 years, is proud to provide products that make pool service easier than ever before. Its unique enzyme formulations in Pro Series Pro Blend improve efficiency of your pool program while reducing frequency of filter cleaning and scum lines. Natural Chemistry is also well known for its wide variety of phosphate removal solutions that include a non-clouding formula in Phos-Free and extremely high-range removal with Pro Series Phos Remove or Phos-Free Max. Save time, save money, save work with Pro Series products. Stop sacrificing durability or efficiency with the help of Raypak's new Avia HD models that utilize NITEC, their exclusive industry-first technology. NITEC heat exchanger technology is Raypak's latest solution to superior strength and maximum efficiency when it comes to residential pool heating. With 900% more nickel compared to copper nickel in critical surfaces, NITEC creates an ideal surface to protect against scale formation and erosion without compromising on Avia's 84% thermal efficiency. Learn more at raypak.com/NITEC. The next evolution in lighting is here. Universal Color Logic 2.0 from Hayward. The latest in pool and spa lighting was designed with you in mind, making installation a breeze. Upgrades include a detachable cord and first-of-a-kind adjustable lower catch to overcome variations in plaster thickness. As always, Universal Color Logic lights retrofit into virtually any in-ground pool or spa while delivering industry-leading, vibrant color. Visit hayward.com to discover more.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Pool Nation Live Podcast. We continue our conversation with Adam and Kevin. We are at our final thoughts. I think we could have gone for at least probably another hour easily. Easily, because we just hit the tip of the iceberg. Like, we weren't even able to get into a lot of the things that I wanted to talk about, which it currently does now. So I think we're going to have to do another podcast and have you guys come back where we can talk a little bit strategically about the phases and what are some of the things that the pool pros, as they go through those phases, they should turn on and start to use that will be able to help them. So, but Mr. Zacharias, let me get some final thoughts.
Man, no, I mean, my mind is very similar in the way of, like, whenever I encounter a problem in the business, my goal is how can I solve this problem for good and forever? Like, what rails can I put in place that we can then go and I don't have to experience this again. And that's what I love about PoolBrain. And it empowers us to be, like we've said multiple times, proactive versus reactive. And I think it sets the techs up to be more successful because, like you said, they are set up for failure. There's so much in this industry that it's like, okay, here you go, fly after 2 weeks. And it's like they're not even close to being able to understand what they need to know to do their job successfully, and in turn have better morale, better customer experience, better retention. So I think that it's amazing now that there is a tool that can assist business owners with doing this with their team, because that's the biggest struggle. Like, all this stuff lives in the business owner. We start growing, we start hiring, we're putting out fires, and then it's just this vicious cycle that we get stuck in. And one of our core principles is making pros financially successful, and having that data and that information and that level of control. And like you said, the problems come to you. You don't have to sit there and search for the problems. I mean, that is just amazing. And the money savings and the things like that, because that's what we want people to be financially successful. And in turn, we rise the industry for everyone.
Absolutely. Mr. Flawless, final thoughts.
Look, I got a lot, and I know we're running out of time here. And as usual, before my final thoughts, I kind of get into my final thoughts. So I'm going to try to contain myself here, but first and foremost, I want to
try.
I want to thank you guys. He
didn't say he was.
Right. On a couple of notes. One, for coming out here, right, and doing this, taking the time out to do this and do the podcast. Two, for being one of our visionary partners and believing in us and what we do. I think we're aligned, in the dream and the vision of educating the pool pros, and we have a common goal. But three, more importantly, is thank you for being a part, and I touched on it before the break, was that being a part of that of the fire, right, to get our industry to where it needs to be, so that we can move forward and we can progress, right, and we can do better, and we can make our jobs just a little bit easier. You know, we've always looked at what I love about PoolBrain is that, you know, we've always just been used to like, route software, and it's just managing routes, going out there, taking pictures, sending emails, doing whatever it may be. Where you guys evolved into, and you were literally like a partner with the business, right? You were there, you fill in the roles of a service manager and stuff for, especially, you know, for smaller companies that might not have 100 trucks out there, but, you know, people with 2-3 employees that are kind of getting there and still trying to juggle 15 different hats, and it's really hard to make it happen. You have taken some of the pain away from, that we go through, you know, or alleviated, you know, the extra expense or cost, or us having to educate ourselves to get really, you know, down deep into. Some of us just don't have it in us, right, to be able to do that type of stuff, or don't have the time. And you have, you know, I think it's what differentiates you from the competition out there, is that, you know, you've taken this almost like as a personal mission, right? To
challenge accepted.
You know, to where it's like, yeah, we might have already the best route software out there, but we can do better. And we constantly need to grow. And more importantly, you listen, right? And it's where you tear down those walls. And I touched on that frustration at the beginning of the podcast, where you have these conversations with some of these other people, and it's like, well, okay, but that might make sense to you, or we haven't heard it enough yet, or there haven't been enough cries or screams or yelling for us to even make a move on it, right? So it is what you got, and it is what it is. Deal with it. What else are you going to do, right? Where you guys take it into, and I had a perfect example, and we had a conversation, you know, about a few months ago about a concern or an issue from somebody that I know that came to me, and we talked about it. But it's like, to be accessible, to be there, and to actually have a conversation with somebody who's lived it and breathed it and understands it and knows the frustrations, and more than likely, because you've fallen on your face 10 different times, you've experienced it, you've failed, you've taken 3 steps back, or you've gone through those troubles that somebody just might be currently going through initially, right? And then you're able to actually help solve that issue, right? Or, you know, you can, I don't know, really know how to explain it, but it's just like, you have a lot more credibility because you're one of us, right? Because you've been in the industry doing what you're doing. So I think that's what I love about PoolBrain, and more importantly, that you guys, good enough isn't good enough, right? You want to do more. And the examples of some of the new stuff, especially with the AI and what you guys are evolving to. And I mean, it's ballsy to do stuff, and that takes a lot of money and a lot of effort, you know? And I just look forward to seeing what you guys have to roll out, and what the rest of the industry is going to do in reaction to it. So, thank you so much for coming down. I really appreciate it. Kevin, appreciate you, my friend. Adam, you are the man. Looking forward to getting some nice food right now.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for coming, guys. We really appreciate it. You know, a lot of times we talk about it all the time, and we kind of go through the struggle of, you know, we really want to better the industry. That's the end goal, right? And we go through our ups and downs, and sometimes we feel like there's progress being made, and then we kind of sit down and like, man, is progress really being made, right? And today I leave fired up, right? Because there's somebody that is a pool pro that's putting a product together that, when we talk about helping pool pros be financially successful, right, which is our core mission of what we want to do, this is a tool that if they put in play, is just going to be game changer for them. So I leave kind of excited today, kind of knowing, hey, with our mission and with people like you and the tools like that and wanting to better the industry, we're going to get there for sure. So, hey, thanks to everybody out there. Catch me and John next Wednesday. Yes, we will be back live next Wednesday. We missed the last 2. 100%. I heard it. I'm sorry. We will be back next Wednesday, right? What we're going to do a little bit different. We normally leave with our word from our sponsors, but you know what? Somebody magically sent me a video on a lot of people that use your guys' products, and we're going to go ahead and play that as our outro. We'll catch everybody next Wednesday. Have a great weekend.
See ya.
Bye, guys.
Immediate response from all the employees of how much better this was made it clear that we were on the right track choosing PoolBrain.
The most valuable features in PoolBrain are the automated alerts. It's really helped us to address issues before they're issues, to fix things before our customers notice them, and to reduce our total number of complaints in marine pools.
That's normally when we start losing customers, is when the pool turns green, right? So the alerts feature has been, again, another game changer for our franchisees.
The ability to have the alerts and kind of track the consistency of the alerts, if it's going on for a couple of weeks, gives us the ability to get ahead of customer issues and really work with them to solve the problems that ultimately would have led to churn downstream.
We've definitely seen material gain with the chemical tracking function in PoolBrain.
Because we're using consistent tools, we have the dosing calculators and all kinds of features turned on. We're finding that we can get techs out in the field faster. And also when they're out in the field, they're out doing consistent work the way we want it done.
There really is so little training for the technician. It's self-explanatory. It takes them step by step and is very user-friendly. With the email and the detail of the photos, the description of the photos, and any call to actions after a visit, it is far superior to the competition.
We have been able to basically double the size of our customer base with the same amount of folks handling the upfront office things because of the streamlined processes between billing and customer service.
We've been able to reduce our money owed over 60 days to under 0.6%.
One of the big ones is the real-time progress indicators. Provides the back office team the ability to monitor the techs and what they're getting accomplished or not getting accomplished throughout the day. That's just so huge from an accountability perspective.
I love to nerd out in the technician page and see exactly what every one of our people are doing on a daily basis.
The payroll side of PoolBrain is far and above better than everybody else.
The feature set that we've got and the impact it's had on our business has absolutely paid off. And again, I already think it's better now, and it will continue to just get better.
I know what PoolBrain has done for us, and so I'm happy to refer it to any and all pool service companies out there.
We have tried multiple pool routing software solutions, and PoolBrain is by far the best.
It's vetted, it's tried, it's true. If you're on a pool company, you'd be crazy not to utilize PoolBrain.
It is really good. It really is great.